Part 12. By the time the bus rolled into Denver, night had already fallen. The terminal was indoors, dimly lit, the kind of place that felt half asleep. I stumbled out into the cold, called Big Shwe, and a few minutes later he pulled up in a faded red pickup truck, a vintage Chevrolet that looked straight out of the 1980s. He drove me toward the place we'd be staying, and the farther we went, the emptier it got. Street lights gave way to open fields, pavement turned into muddy country roads. Outside the windows were dark meadows, streams, frozen ponds, and rows of old trees that looked like they'd been standing for decades. It was winter, and everything was silent. No birds, no animals, just the kind of stillness that makes you realize how far you've gone from civilization. The place we stayed at was one of the boss's houses. He owned many, apparently, and, according to Shwe, the man was one of the richest people in Colorado. That surprised me. I thought I'd stumbled into a real opportunity, maybe even found someone powerful to rely on. The house itself sat in the middle of nowhere. When I say nowhere, I mean it. No other houses within 10 miles, and the nearest neighbor, one of the boss's sons, lived 20 miles away. In front of the house was a small lake, perfectly still like a mirror. The yard around it was fenced with old, half-rotten wooden planks. Inside the fence stood several large trees and a wide-open patch of dirt where dozens of vehicles were parked, broken-down RVs, sedans, convertibles, even a few antique cars. The only one that actually worked was the red pickup. The boss had a strange hobby, collecting junk cars. Shwe said he'd grown up poor, so he hated throwing anything away. He'd buy old things cheap, convinced they'd come in handy someday. Honestly, that reminded me of my grandparents back home. After I dropped my luggage, Shwe told me to pick any bedroom I liked. They were all empty, but warned that the heat didn't work and hadn't been fixed in ages. I looked around the dark, chilly house and asked, "Mind if I just share your room?" He shrugged. "Don't mind. We shared a room back at the motel, didn't we? No big deal." I asked him what happened to the other workers who came with him. He'd mentioned dozens. "They're all gone," he said. "Lasted 3 days, then went back to LA." "Why? Was it a scam?" I asked. "Not exactly," he said. "They just got pissed off." It turned out the guy who'd recruited them was the boss's girlfriend's son, a young guy who barely spoke any English but acted like the big boss on site. He was supposed to be a translator but didn't do any real work. Still, he was making $8,000 a month while the rest of them broke their backs. He bossed people around, didn't show respect, and soon everyone quit in frustration. Shwe stayed because he didn't care about pride, he just wanted steady work. To me, none of that mattered. I didn't care who the boss was sleeping with or who the translator was. I just needed a paycheck. The next morning, Shwe took me to Walmart before work. He bought a heavy-duty work jacket and a pair of steel-toe boots, then handed me the receipt and said, "Keep this, the boss will reimburse it." That was my first day on the job in Colorado. Freezing air, muddy fields, and a strange feeling that I'd finally stepped into a life I hadn't planned but somehow belonged to.